In an earlier video, we had seen the retrograde motion of Venus as it crosses the inferior conjunction. And we stopped that video on day 239, and it had moved retrograde from here to here and then turned again forward and started moving forward. Now let's complete the movement of Shukra and see what happens when it approaches back to the superior conjunction and crosses the superior conjunction. So already, as you see, when it approached the inferior conjunction, its daily movement slowed down dramatically. It became negative. So during this part, it was going backwards, retrograde movement. But when it came to the inferior conjunction, it started accelerating. It started gaining speed, became positive again. So from here onward, the forward movement had started. And by day 239, it had come to a speed of 1.1043 degrees per day. Now let's move forward. From here, you see that it continues to gain in speed, but not very much. The curve is beginning to flatten out. And it will continue like that until it reaches the superior conjunction once again. So the basic idea is, from superior to inferior conjunction, it is slowing down, and from inferior to superior conjunction, it's speeding up. But the speeding up when it approaches superior conjunction is not much. It's quite slow actually. For example, right now it is 1.2373. I go one day, 1.2375, the fourth decimal place increased. That's all. I go one more day, 1.2377. It's increasing, but very, very slowly. That's why here also the curve looks like it's quite flat. And eventually when it reaches superior conjunction, it will be at its fastest. Because the moment it crosses superior conjunction, it's going to start slowing down again. So somewhere here, it's going to be the fastest, 1.2437. Let's check one more day, 1.2437, 1.2437. So it has peaked at 1.2437 degrees per day as it crosses superior conjunction. After this, it's reducing, 1.2436 degrees. 1.2435 degrees, etc. So here the curve is also very flat. So this is the movement, complete movement of Shukra. At one end, you are seeing a very steep bottoming out and spiking up. At the other end, you are seeing a flattening out. There's no peak here. Here there is a peak. Here it's a flat. But then eventually now it's all slowing down. You can see the curve is dropping. So from here to here, it slows down. Here to here, it speeds up. So let's watch this curve. Let's complete one more cycle until it comes to the inferior conjunction, because the graph gets quite interesting actually. So from here onwards, you're going to expect a steep drop. And that's what is going to happen now. There it starts. And as it approaches inferior conjunction, it's dropping again. And now you will expect the next retrograde movement to happen, right? But see where it is happening. Now it is happening in Vrishabha, not in Tula. It's happening in a different part of the sky. Now the retrograde movement is over and it is moving forward once again. So this pattern will keep on repeating, but clearly the first retrograde movement was here, the second one has come here. So a couple of observations on this. First of all, why am I explaining the retrograde movement of Venus and the forward movement to such a great extent? Because you see this curve, it's nice looking, but it's quite complex. There is sudden decrease in the daily velocity, increase in the daily velocity, flattening out. Then it starts repeating down and up, and again it will flatten out. But there is a lot of variation in the movement of Venus. In reality, it's just going around the sun. no doubt about that. But we are looking at it from the Earth. And when we look at it from the Earth, there is a lot of variation in the speed of Venus. Now, the interesting point is that the ancient Hindu astronomers who composed the Surya Siddhanta at least 1600 years back, they completely accounted for this variation in their mathematics. So, given a date and time, if you ask Surya Siddhanta, where is Venus? They used to very accurately predict where Venus will be within the Rashi Mandala, taking into account all these variations. So that gives you a clue as to how sophisticated the mathematics of the Hindu astronomers was a millennia and a half back. This is not some trivial mathematics you are dealing with, because it's able to handle this kind of variation in the movement, in the apparent movement of a heavenly body, Shukra. The second point I want to make is, so the first retrograde was here, the next retrograde happened here, where will the next one be? There is actually a pattern to these retrograde movements, and that will be the subject of my next video.